Oh, people are excited about 2023. I can see you guys out there. I can see you in chat. I see you getting hyped about the triumphant return of everyone's favorite talk show in the gaming, crypto, and NFT industry, Illuva Talks. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Andrew Wall, host and executive producer here at Illuvium, and we've got an incredible episode to kick off 2023. It's going to set the stage for the entire year for all of you to understand what's going to happen in the industry. And I've got two of the smartest brains, two of my favorite guests for the show right here. The future of video games is the topic, my friends. And what are we talking about? We're going to define 2022 to set the stage for 2023 predictions and talk about the challenges we're going to face in blockchain, NFTs, and gaming here in 2023, and talk about solutions to those problems on this episode. And a quick disclaimer for all the super geniuses out there that follow us, you already know this, but this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Hey, maybe this show is a part of that research, but make sure that you're not buying anything after we're talking about cool video game stuff. You're smart enough to understand that, right? Right. So let's bring in our guests for this episode, starting with our first guest, a returning guest from last year. I don't know, he's been on the show a few times. You know him. His name is Scoriox, and he's a content creator. He's that analytical content creator that's obsessed with land and analyzing Illuvium. What's up, Scoriox? How you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. It's a little bit early, but I'm actually feeling really good today. I don't know, my body's chemistry is just working right.
Perfect. But it couldn't just be me and Scoriox talking with each other about the industry. That wouldn't be new. So we've got a super genius coming in here, Adrian, who's the CEO of Spielworks and is developing multiple interesting apps, projects, and games here in the space with Womplay. Let's bring him in here. Adrian, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, so excited.
To be on for the first time, actually.
For the very first time to kick off 2023, we've got a fresh face and somebody actually building stuff in this space, not just speculating on it, which is really important. So let's set the stage for our first topic. All right, 2022, it was a big year, okay? And so just to recap some of the facts from 2022 with the gaming industry and crypto industry, I'm just gonna set the stage with some facts, and then I'm gonna talk to you guys about what do you think defined 2022 when we look back on it 10 years from now. What are those facts? Here we go. Here are just some, I just like to look at numbers, okay? So the video game industry revenue worldwide in 2022 was dominated by mobile games. Everybody should know that. So in 2022, $92 billion in mobile games, $50 billion in console games, $38 billion in downloaded PC games, and then 2.3 million in browser PC games. So the industry in 2022 continued to be dominated by mobile games. Other facts include the numbers went down in 2022 in terms of revenue. Very important to note last year, slightly. From 192.7 billion in 2021, revenue went down to $184 billion in the gaming industry, but the number of players went up from 3.1 billion to 3.2 billion. So 100 million new gamers came into the industry. An interesting dynamic that happened last year with more players but less revenue. And then, of course, when you look at crypto, and I don't want to go, I'm not a technical analyst here, but as you can see, we started out the year with the crypto market cap. This is all 12,000 coins here on CoinMarketCap or on CoinGecko. Started out around 2.3 trillion, and ended the year down below 1 trillion. So obviously the market cap of the crypto space decreased. And of course the NFT industry popped off and down and up and down, and this crazy pattern where it basically became the most popular thing in the world and popular culture on the internet, and then suddenly died, then came back, then died. It was a wild ride for the NFT space. So with all of those facts there, didn't share any opinions. Those are just facts about what happened last year, my friends. I'm going to kick it over to Adrian and ask you this question. 10 years from now, rub that Womplay crystal ball here. When we think back to 2022, 10 years from now, how will this last year be remembered?
I think there's going to be a couple of things. One is going to be that the kind of classic play-to-earn scheme died in 2022, right? So we won't see games like Axie Infinity having this much of an impact anymore and coming up this big, and then basically the economy dying that quickly. So these types of, well, some people say Ponzonomics, right? Games that are basically just about making money very quickly and then exiting. That's not going to happen. So that 2022 will have been the year where this kind of play to earn scheme died. So that's probably one thing. Then another thing is, from my perspective, is that we are getting into much more substantial stuff, much less hype, much less, blowing up things very quickly, much less, like just building off of expectations and fundraising heaps of money. I think that's never going to come back in that kind of extreme form as we've seen it 2021 and 2022. So because of this catalyst that we've had in both kind of the macroeconomics, but then in crypto specifically, and I mean the gaming industry not growing for the first time in I don't know how many years. 20?
It's like 20 years. I mean, the industry, so basically since the internet boom happened in the early 2000s, it's been a steady line up. And to see a dip in gaming industry growth, let me follow up with you on that. Is that an indicator that there's maybe a technological change or an opportunity here where the old models, maybe the old games, maybe there's fatigue with the current gaming industry in 2022? Is that a inflection? Is the data showing us an inflection point where a new technology like Web3, crypto, NFTs are going to come into play? Or was it just a bad year? You know what I'm saying? People had less money in their bank account. What's your take on that, Adrian?
I think it's actually a letter that you said, because I don't think that there's any specific opportunity coming up from that for Web3. I think that it just takes time for Web3 in gaming to actually get adopted widely, right? And we've seen a lot of game companies basically getting funded in 2021, right? And from there, it basically takes a lot of time. It takes 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know how long to actually build a AA, AAA, like extremely good game, right? So we're going to see the fruits from kind of these funding rounds and this craziness in 2021, 2022. We'll see a lot of that just come into fruition in 3 or 5 years, right? So I don't think that this will, like me personally, I don't think this will be an inflection point for Web3 in gaming because the market went down for the first time. I think it's normal that after 20 years of steady growth, of low interest rates, we have to see kind of a break in whatever growth trajectory in whatever industry, basically. So, but I think the opportunity is still huge, right? And the opportunity is still going to be growing from here.
That makes sense. Every market needs to cool off at some point, and market and gaming industry has been dominating the media industry overall. Gaming is now larger than television, film, and all other types of entertainment combined, right? I got to get your take, Scoriox. 10 years from now, we look back on 2022. What are the standout things that we will remember from 2022?
I don't think we will remember, to be quite frank. I think there's the obvious misconception that some people have is that people think people are here, and no one's here in crypto gaming right now, right? So, but that's what I'm saying. In 10 years from now, especially, but even 5 years from now, the quantity of people that are here in 2022 is probably 2 to 3% at most of the amount of people that might be in crypto gaming in general, or even NFTs and blockchain and crypto overall, right? There's like no one here right now, so I don't think it really will be that heavily remembered. I think if it's remembered by anything, it'll be about the projects that stuck around that were building in the bear market. Like the previous crypto cycles, when there's large crashes and things, the only projects you really remember are those really big ones that survived through the bear market, because there weren't many of them. Things like Litecoin, Ethereum Classic and stuff, they're kind of the obscure ones that you can pick out besides, Ethereum and Bitcoin or whatever. But I think that'll be the thing that is heavily remembered. I did want to talk a little bit about the point on the revenue going down in 2022. And I'm not sure exactly how that stat is calculated, but what I've been seeing is that ad revenue has been the really big thing in 2022, 2023 that is shifting. The way advertisers are advertising in all mediums has changed a lot. I think mobile gaming generates a lot of their income from ad revenue as well. So I would expect that the ad revenue shifts and things is probably why you're seeing that big discrepancy, whereas players is increasing, but revenue is decreasing. And I think that might actually continue through 2023 because I don't think the whole ad system is sustainable. And I think it's going to shrink again before it gets better. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see going forward.
That makes sense. I mean, where the attention is where the opportunity is to grow for businesses, projects, and ad revenue follows. And experts out there are saying the decrease in gaming industry revenue, a big part of that was 2021 was because of inflation. The world printed $12 trillion out of nowhere, and that money got spent in 2021. And then in 2022, they didn't print another $12 trillion. And so that is another factor, and a lot of people were spending on mobile. CEOs are at least spinning it like that right now. Whether that's true or not, is up to debate. I'm fascinated that you guys did not bring up the following headlines as defining 2022, such as scam bankman fraud and the whole FTX thing. You don't think that'll define this last year? How about the fall of Voyager going bankrupt? Or such as Ponzi scheme accusations with Celsius and what have you. Do you think that these negative headlines and this sort of fuddy stuff, it sounds like you guys think this won't really be remembered and this will just kind of be in the history books as part of the, let's say, natural market cycle where the weak players are eliminated essentially as prices go down. What are your thoughts on that? Do people remember the scams and the scandals and things like that in the past, or they just remember the good stuff that they're enjoying now? What are your thoughts on that? I'll kick it over to Adrian.
I mean, in a way, yes. I guess that FTX, much more than even Terra, has been discussed in the mainstream media quite a bunch. At least I can tell it from Germany. And crypto and blockchain is hardly ever getting discussed in mainstream media outside of there being kind of a major fraud kind of thing, right? Or some craze going on. But well, I mean, do you remember 9 years ago Mt. Gox happening, right? Do people still discuss that?
Only crypto bros discuss Mt. Gox. Like no real people in the real world know what Mt. Gox is. I bet people in chat, be honest, live chat, people that are watching right now, do you know what Mt. Gox is? It's okay to type no. Go ahead, Adrian.
I mean, I discussed that, and a lot of people are discussing it now because they're about. I still have my claim, right? I had Bitcoin on Mt. Gox back in 2013, 2014, so that's why, right? And now obviously there's I don't know how much 200,000 Bitcoin still kind of to be left from that hack. And those are going to be paid out in 2023, and that's why people are discussing that. But outside of that, nobody would care, right? So honestly, I think that SAM, SBF, and Terra, and Celsius and Voyager, these will go down in history, just like all these other frauds that there were there, right? BTCE rug pulled in 2017, whatever, all these things, right? It's just that now we may have a little bit of a recency bias, but we also may have a little bit of a bias because the market is bad. So we think that this caused the market to be bad, but it's not that, right? It's kind of the perfect storm that we're seeing here. This is not the sole factor, and I think that people will dissect that and that they will basically just view that as, okay, yeah, actually that had to happen in a market that was going downwards, right? It will basically wash out the really bad players. And that's something good that happened, so that now we're actually much more solid and have a pathway forward without those weirdos.
Without those weirdos. Perfect. Okay. So I think we kind of set the stage for 2022. It sounds like we agree that things like negative headlines and what have you, this is all sort of inside baseball, let's call it, here within the crypto industry. People aren't really going to remember it. I mean, does anybody remember the names of the websites that were purchased for hundreds of millions or billions in the dot-com boom and bust? The ones that busted. Do you know any of them? Anyone? No. You only know the winners: Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Netflix, the household names that came out of the dot-com boom and bust and rode that wave. Those are the only ones you know about. So I like that. I like that take. And hopefully that means that players like Illuvium, that during this last year when there's a bunch of negative headlines going on, doing things like land sales and building along the way, hopefully good names like this, maybe Wombat, Womplay, and the projects that you're working on that are actually building during this time and not getting fudded out are the ones that come out the other side, just like the successful companies in the dot-com boom and bust era. Now let's move into the fun part, which is speculating about 2023. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. I'll let you guys take a sip of water, and we're going to thank our sponsor for today's episode, Illuvium, obviously. Check out this quick video about Illuvium 0, because our alpha is about to drop, and we'll be right back.
Illuvium is building the world's first interoperable blockchain games, including Illuvium Overworld, Arena, and Zero, where you can play and own your assets across multiple video games. Illuvium Zero is a free-to-play industrial building game available on mobile, PC, and Mac. Players build their own virtual industrial complex to collect essential elements, precious fuel, and unique blueprints on Illuvium land. Elements are necessary to build futuristic structures in Illuvium Zero that produce highly sought-after resources. Fuel enables players to explore our fantastical Illuvium overworld and collect our iconic Illuvials. Blueprints unlock the ability to produce eye-popping skins that are utilized in other Illuvium games. These groundbreaking connections to Illuvium land represent the first time gamers can play a video game that deeply impacts how they play another video game. A simple yet profound innovation. Free-to-play players can fully experience Illuvium Zero's strategic gameplay, yet they will not be able to collect revenue-generating assets. Illuvium landowners, on the other hand, can trade your fuel, blueprints, and elements on the Illuvidex, our official market exchange, for revenue, or use them to play our other games. The choice is yours. To learn more about Illuvium Zero, go to play.illuvium.io/0.
Thanks, Illuvium, for sponsoring this video. God, that voiceover guy, give that guy a raise. So go to play.illuvium.io/0. Landowners are the ones that will be able to access this alpha phase. So just heads up, you can, if you own land or you decide to purchase land, then you will be able to access this alpha. Go to that page, make sure you don't miss out, and play the actual video game associated with that piece of land, not just play empty promises. Oh, shots fired. All right, let's move on to our next topic, my friends, and that is 2023 predictions. So there's a bunch of speculation out there, right? The crypto media loves to hop on the what's going to happen the next year train. Let's speculate about what's that hot coin going to be? What's that next 10x going to be? What's the blah, blah, blah going to be? And so I found a great kind of archetype article here on CoinMarketCap where they, most people are bullish for some reason for this year versus bearish. And these are the top coins they're interested in, which are basically the ones with high market cap. And so everybody's got their idea about, there's this narrative happening right now where in 2023, we're going to enter a deadly recession that'll kill global markets and we'll go back to using gold coins to exchange with each other. To other people saying, we're going to see a bull market rally. To other people saying nothing's going to happen at all. And so, price aside, with all this noise out there, I want to know what you guys think. What is the biggest trend of 2023 going to be? We'll start with Scoriox on this.
So there is one big trend that I see being in 2023 and 2024 and onwards. I think there's a trend that's going to be over for the next few years and especially the bull run, and that's real yield. So this is something I've been talking about, especially on my channel for quite some time now, is I'm really only interested in projects that involve real yield. And what I mean by that is essentially you know where the funds are coming from. I feel like that's really important. I think that will trend really, really quickly. I think Ethereum staking, well, not staking per se, but Ethereum 2.0 is going to kick this off, right? Ethereum 2.0 meant that pretty much every transaction fee is going to go to stakers and they're going to make it, right? And I think that's going to be a trend that continues throughout the entire crypto space, especially in a way that people aren't getting away with random NFT sales anymore. If you're a really big brand, you're able to sell out your NFT collection. I remember when every NFT collection sold out in like a matter of seconds. But I
Yeah,
don't.
that was wild.
But people haven't been getting away with that for the past 6 months, and I don't think it's going to happen moving forward. And I think that's going to be part of the reason that people are looking for real yield. If they buy an NFT, they want some like good utility, and that's not necessarily gaming. I feel like yield is a really important one, where they're like, okay, so people are paying advertising and I'm going to make money from it, or people are playing a game, or
I
people
see.
are doing this and that. And that's going to come into the NFT, or that's going to come into the project somehow, and it's going to be distributed somehow. So RevDiz is obviously one of the reasons I got into Illuvium, and I feel like that was a core concept that I saw as being quite new in the space, and I don't expect that to be new for much longer, is pretty much what I'm saying.
So the difference between, let's call it fake yield and real yield, then, correct me if I'm wrong, is with real yield, you know that it came from a real source of revenue in the real world, in some regard, through commerce or through product sales, through sponsorships, advertising, investors, whatever it may be, not them just printing tokens and then just handing those out. Is that basically what you mean between the difference between fake yield and real yield?
Pretty much. I think the crypto space as a whole and people in general have gotten smarter over the past 2022 and even parts of 2021. And they're not gonna just settle for that anymore. And you can see that as the crypto tokens keep going down, people are looking for those premium projects. And I feel like, those projects that really design their systems carefully and encourage actual spending within their ecosystems are going to be the ones that thrive and survive.
I love that comment from Ricky Tan. If you don't know where the yield comes from, you are the yield. That's good stuff. Very true. That makes sense. And I know that like over at Womplay, and with what you're building, Adrian, you guys are providing incentives to gamers for playing various games in your ecosystem and what have you. So that's something that you guys are working on. Do you care to comment on this real yield concept, and how are you guys thinking about this over at Spielworks?
I generally like talking about a very similar concept, not necessarily in terms of yield, but in terms of basically real world cash flows that are relevant to crypto, right? And I think that we're seeing a lot of that. I would agree on that one. Like the royalty NFTs for music, right? Where you have NFTs and you basically these have you participate in the future royalties of streaming income for these songs and stuff, right? You mentioned Womplay. We've had a similar concept there where we said, okay, everything is actually dollar denominated, right? So you get a certain amount of crypto for playing traditional games. And so we added that layer of crypto on top of Web 2 games in order to onboard more people from the Web 2 space into Web 3, because the games are AA, AAA games, mostly on mobile. Stuff like Raid Shadow Legends, like big productions, 200, 300, 400 million downloads and stuff, right? So very familiar things. And then what you get is crypto, but you don't get something that's inflated by valuation right now, but you get your share of $2,000, $3,000 weekly payout, right? So that was our approach, which was much more relatable to a lot of people. So this was the way we, for instance, onboarded 3 million users. But one thing that I don't agree with Scoriox on is that people get smarter, right? And I think that the minute the next bull run starts, and that's probably my prediction, I'll get to that, is that it's not going to be as strong this year, right? So I'm not as bullish as kind of the coin market cap folks. But as soon as that happens, people will start buying anything that might become valuable again. We've seen that a bunch of times, right? So back in, I don't know, 2013, 14, this was any coin, right? Any kind of fork of Bitcoin would be like the next thing, right? Oh, Litecoin is better. Litecoin is just a fork of Bitcoin, and it has four times shorter block times and 4 times higher supply. That's it, right? That was all that it could do back then, right? Dogecoin, whatever. And then 2017 came, and we had ICOs, and people were just buying whatever they could buy, right? And then 2021 came, and people were just buying NFTs. So I think maybe not in the same asset class, but in a like similar but different asset class, people will basically buy anything that they can get their hands on, because it's still gonna, like, I think we'll probably see 1 or 2 more cycles of this mega hype into one thing that was DeFi in 2020 in crypto, NFTs in 2021. We'll probably see 1 or 2 more cycles of this, of whatever it is. That I don't know. But it's not going to be kind of a repetitive thing, because people will already know that, and they will not hype gaming as much or NFTs as much. It's going to be something else, right? So curious on that, but
interesting. Yeah, no, I like your take on that. And of course, so you're thinking it's not necessarily going to happen in 2023, some blow off top, but it'll happen again. So you foresee for a few more cycles the crypto industry having a bubble and then just a horrifying crash afterwards, then a bubble and a horrifying crash. But perhaps but let me ask you this. Is there going to be decreasing volatility in the future then with this? Are we going to see the market stabilize with each boom and bust, with the sort of underbrush being cleared out every time the fire burns down the forest? What are your thoughts on that? Or is it just going to continue to be freaking wild because anybody in the whole world can make any project, any coin, any NFT? So, it's just going to be this wild free market scenario. Curious to know if you see stabilization in the future or not.
I think one very interesting phase is basically right now, right? We see very, very low volatility in the market. It's crazy. We've actually, I cannot remember any time where we had such low volatility on Bitcoin, for instance, right? We've been roaming between 16.5 and 16.8 for quite some weeks now. It's weird. It feels something needs to happen quite soon. So it's actually quite funny. I think that what needs to happen is that we need much bigger markets, and that sounds odd because you look at the market caps and the volumes and so on, and it would look like we have super large markets. Bitcoin market is super big, right? But it's not, and that's the problem. The Bitcoin market is very tiny. The number of Bitcoin that are actually being actively traded on spot markets, that's not 18 million or 19 million Bitcoin that are in existence. That's a tiny little fraction of those. It's 1 million Bitcoin, 2 million Bitcoin that are being actively traded all the time, that are held on exchange, ready to be traded, and not kind of leveraged or in futures markets and stuff. So in order for the markets to stabilize, we need much more people with much more money trading much more of these assets, which sounds crazy, but it's like that, right? Right now, it's very easy for anyone to still drive, at least of like mid-cap coins, or to drive prices wherever they want them. And there's no sanctions on this. There's no kind of real insider trading scrutinization for these things. So that all needs to happen before we can actually see very stable, low volatility markets. We will see them. I'm really sure it will happen, but it's probably going to take those 2 more cycles, and probably these cycles will be somehow bound to Bitcoin halving events.
Interesting take. I think it's interesting here. I just asked you guys, what are the trends of 2023? And you guys, Scoriox comes out with real yield. And then Adrian comes out with talking about price action and all the money that's coming in. Well, what about the video games, guys? Because mainstream gaming, when they're talking about 2023, they're talking about Hogwarts Legacy. Ooh, it's going to be cool. This one's going to be polarizing, obviously. Then they're talking about Starfield. Is it going to be the best game ever or a total flop? And they're talking about Diablo 4, where all hell breaks loose this summer. Let's go, guys. Well, they're not talking about money. They're not talking about investments. They're not talking about the value of the market or anything like that. They're talking about video games out there in the real world. And so for me, when I look at what's the trend in 2023, for me, it's about who's going to be making the video games that are at this level, that are at the level of a Hogwarts Legacy, that are at the level of a Starfield or a Diablo 4 and what have you, in order to get the attention of the mainstream gamer. For me, this is the big market opportunity. Otherwise, we're going to be just a bunch of dudes sitting in here talking about a niche space, hoping some liquidity comes in so we can build something cool in the future. So for me in 2023, I think that this is a year of building. And I think that this is a year where no huge AAA games are going to go mainstream right now. And they're all baking in the oven, getting ready to hopefully one of them or two of them or something like that breaks out in the future, but probably not in 2023. Scoriox, I see your brain chugging over there. What are you thinking right now?
I couldn't disagree more. I feel like Web 2 and Web 3 have a lot of similarities with the way the gaming industry is panning out, and that is half-baked games, right? And you say that they don't talk about money or anything like that, but the fact that every single major title last year dropped with incredible amounts of bugs, glitches, unpolished, unfinished, essentially, proves that the dollar signs were literally the only thing that those gaming companies were thinking about in getting those games out significantly before they were ready, right? I think that has been a big problem in the gaming industry, especially in the past few years. And I think 2023 will start to open up those cracks even more until we start to see these things improve. And yeah, Web 2 and Web 3 are no different in that way.
Yeah, obviously the most recent mega example of what you're talking about would be Cyberpunk 2077, but previous titles would include Anthem as another massive miss in a half-baked game. And there's always that, whatever the most anticipated game is, in the mainstream gaming industry, the meme right now is almost like it's guaranteed it's going to drop buggy and broken. And that's the only thing you can count on. That makes sense. So do you think that in Web3, the same mistakes will continue to be made in 2023 and beyond, where people are just pumping out the fastest piece of garbage they can to monetize, selling those sweet, sweet NFTs and rolling out? Or do you think Web3 this year and moving forward will actually learn their lesson? I'm curious to know, Adrian, your take on that.
I think that Web3 gaming is in that way a little bit different from kind of these premium titles, right? Where with premium, you should ship something that's ready, right? But Web3 is actually much closer to what's been going on in free-to-play, right? Where the base version of a game is typically not the thing that everyone will be playing 5 years from now, but the game will be evolving. And in Web3, it's actually, this effect is even stronger. It's actually much stronger because anyone who buys into the game with their assets, with ILV tokens, land, whatever, they own a piece of the game, right? So they expect evolution in the game. They expect development in the game. And also, at least the current gamers in Web3, they are much more forgiving than, mainstream hardcore gamers who are not forgiving at all, right? So I think that the model will actually change.
Here, hit pause there. Are you saying, are they more forgiving because they have skin in the game? Is that the reason why? Like they've invested some of their own money, or are they more forgiving just because they want this new technology to succeed? Like, what is the source of their forgiveness? Is it just because they haven't been burned yet? Or I'm curious to know what you think there.
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think that a lot of people have skin in the game. They have no interest in dumping all that stuff, right? Some of them have a lot of that. So they don't want to just like make it worthless by dumping or by talking badly about it. But also they've seen a lot of really bad stuff typically, right? For most Web3 gamers, this specific Web3 game is not the first one. So they've seen quite a bunch of things, and they do want this to succeed for multiple reasons, for industry reasons, but also for like this individual game's sake, right? So that's what I think.
Makes sense. And for those of you out there that are interested to know what Illuvium has planned this year, where there's no secret, we did a whole live stream about it. We're dropping Arena Private Beta 3, Overworld Private Beta 2, Merchandise Store, Governance 2.0, and our public beta launch. And what isn't listed here is the Illuvium 0 alpha as well, and obviously Illuvatars. So yeah, we've got a lot planned that we're dropping this year. So regardless of what's happening, Illuvium's moving forward. That's our plan. And really quick, before we move into our next topic, which is, I always like to focus on what those challenges are. And I want to know what kind of solutions you guys have for those challenges we need to make sure that all of you guys, if you're not already, go to illuvium.buzzsprout.com. There's an audio version of this podcast where you can listen to Scoriox. I'm going to compress his audio, add an EQ. This guy's going to sound like Morgan Freeman by the time I'm done with him. So go over there and listen to the audio version if you'd like to catch this show or you don't have time to catch it live like all of you beautiful people are doing right now. All right, let's talk about the challenges and solutions moving forward here in 2023. I have to ask you, we'll start with Scoriox. What is the greatest challenge that let's call it the blockchain gaming industry, or maybe the new gaming industry. I hate the blockchain gaming industry as a term, but the new gaming industry, let's say, will face in 2023. What's our biggest challenge? Go.
I think the obvious one, and we've talked about this on Illuva Talks many times before, is the stigma around crypto and things like that. It's so hard to shake, especially with things like FTX and everything occurring in the space. It's nearly impossible to shake. I've been watching a lot of videos lately about the crypto zoo fiasco with Logan Paul and everything like that. And it's just every opportunity regular media or other influencers and just anyone that dislikes crypto gets, they will take that to stab at crypto, right? It's low-hanging fruit. It's great content, and it gives them a lot of clicks and views.
It's good for clicks.
Until that gets shaken up a bit, until that gets removed, there's no way the blockchain gaming can really go forward unless it does really inspire people. At the same time, I do think that money kind of rolls the world. It kind of rules the world, right? So once everyone's making money again in the bull market or whatever, they will all change their tune because they want to make money and they want to get the clicks that way. So the clicks will drive all of that narrative. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge moving forward is we need to change their perspective on gaming and crypto gaming in general. But that's going to be really, really difficult to do until people are making money again. And then when it crashes, we'll probably see the same cycle start to repeat. But hopefully by then we'll have enough mainstream adoption, or at least as many good enough games in the blockchain industry that it won't matter as much. And for the last crash, or for the last period of time where a lot of people lost money in crypto, we didn't have any of those excellent projects to fall back on. Like, people, when you really watch this sort of stuff, people don't really talk all that badly about things like Ethereum or Bitcoin necessarily. They're mostly talking about the smaller projects and things like that. So as we get more large projects that are doing good things in the space, then there'll be more good things to talk about in market downturns. Let's put it that way.
Well, then what's the solution? Maybe there's no solution. You're saying, well, once everybody's making more money, then the media will say good stuff about us. So, that's it. Is there a solution? So you're basically saying there's a lack of attention, essentially, in 2023. That'll be a major problem. It'll probably be a lot of FUD because that gets clicks while prices are down, let's say. Is there a solution to the lack of attention right now, or is it just ignore the FUD and build? What are your thoughts on that, Scoriox?
I definitely think there are projects you can build that will be impacted significantly less than the crypto markets. Things like if your games involve a lot of free-to-play sentiment and stuff like that. In those sorts of scenarios, that having a good game will have a big impact. But I think the other side of things is games that go against Web 2 gaming can actually have a really positive impact. As I established before, Web 2 gaming has gone downhill a lot in the past couple of years. I think any game that comes in and then proves against that, whether it's NFT ownership, and they do a really, really good job of that in a really secure and easy way, I think that'll be a really easy win for anyone that can do that first. Hopefully Illuvium. Anyone can pull that off will do really, really well. But anyone that launches a top AAA title that doesn't have any bugs, isn't like super heavy into live service, but that sort of area is tricky because crypto is kind of inherently live service in a lot of ways. But yeah, anyone that launches a proper game that's inspiring, and I think a lot of really key things would be like party games and things that are easy to stream, because I think as long as it's easy to stream, then people won't necessarily care about talking about crypto or how it's bad and all that sort of stuff. So I definitely think there are genres out there that we haven't really touched on in blockchain gaming yet. And I think once we start to get deep involved into those areas and start to spread into everything that hasn't really seen crypto yet, hasn't really seen NFT ownership, and would genuinely benefit from it, we could start to see a change in that stigma per se.
That makes sense. I want to get Adrian's reaction here to this comment from Jim Barino. He says, we need to shift the idea of NFTs in gaming from investment to ownership. And it's still going to be hard after that to shift the minds of normies. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that an important transition that needs to occur? Or is it the investment aspect of an NFT that is a significant part of its value that we shouldn't try to strip from it? What's your opinion on that, Adrian?
It's funny because this comment caught my eye and I wanted to respond to it anyway, so that's cool. Thanks, Jim Marino. I think it should be the other way around, right? It should not start with the investment and then become a valuable asset that has utility in whatever sense, right? But it should first be something that people want because it's a cool item in a game or a cool character or whatever we've had, right? It's the same stuff that we've had back in the 2000s when World of Warcraft items were traded on eBay, right? Suddenly they had value. They had no inherent value and they were not investment objects, right? And you typically wouldn't spend hundreds of thousands, some people obviously did, hundreds of thousands or millions on those, and they wouldn't get kind of traded further because of all the settlement risks and so on. So, but there was value from the utility, and gamers were just being lazy and didn't want to like grind for them, so they would rather buy them. And it's always like that. It's everywhere. It's like that everywhere, right? Gamers are in the business of exchanging their money for entertainment, right? And they spend a lot of money for entertainment, and a lot of people do. And it's the same thing in the movies, right? So gamers do that a lot, and so long as it provides utility for them and they like having it, then they will spend money on it, right? And gaming is a primary example for that. It's actually great that we have something that traditionally, provenly, people have been spending money on, right? It's just that the economics of that are not the same economics that we have seen for Bored Apes, right? That's totally different, right? So we're basically with gaming, we're in general in a high volume, lower value market rather than NFTs in terms of like speculative objects and investments that are like low volume, low numbers, but super high value. It's not going to be like that in gaming, and that's a good thing about gaming, right? Those economics will be very similar to traditional gaming, with the exception or with the addition of, well, you actually own that stuff rather than just that being on some kind of server on a publisher's premise.
That makes sense to me. And the example that always comes to mind for me would be something like a Pokemon trading card game. And I was talking to my local card shop owner who's been dealing in Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering cards for like 20 plus years. And just that's his entire career, is running a business around that. And what he was telling me is that when it comes to Pokemon trading card game, just as an example, 90% of the money, we'll call it invested, I guess, into Pokemon trading card game, the people have never and will never even play the game. They just love collecting the cards. And most of them just hold on to them in a book and they don't plan on selling them at any point. They just like it. And it's a collectible. And Magic the Gathering is similar. More people play Magic, but it has a similar attribute. And I see this new gaming space that's emerging being similar to something like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon trading card game, where the vast majority of people will end up purchasing things because they like it, or they want to play with it, or they want to collect it. All three of those things have emotional attachment to them, as opposed to an ice cold logic decision of I buy at $1, sell at $2, I make money. And so I hope that's the direction the industry is going. But I have to ask you, Adrian, what do you see being the greatest challenge this industry faces in 2023? Is it killer wombats or is it something else?
Killer wombats would be cool. I think that it's actually showing what kinds of benefits Web3 brings to gaming, right? We've been failing at that a lot. And I think it's kind of very close to that reason that we've been placing items or advertising our items not directly as an investment, because then they would become securities, right? But we've been selling them like them. like that, right? So having super small supplies of things and like the scarcity thing, right? Obviously, that's nice with NFTs, and this is how you make money specifically in a bull market, right? Make things scarce, but that's not how gaming works, right? Everyone should have the chance of getting, I don't know, this weapon, whatever, right? That everyone wants to play. It should be hard to get it, right? But it shouldn't necessarily have a super low supply of like 5 or 1 of 1 or whatever. So I think.
Well, hold on, hit pause there. Why not? So the reason why I bring that up is there are, the expansion of the gaming industry is mobile games, and mobile games do the opposite of what you're saying, right? They make the most valuable items incredibly difficult to acquire, and you probably have to pay a lot of money to acquire those items. And that model is why the revenue for gaming industry has exploded, is because they've locked the value behind a paywall. And so I have to challenge you on that, because we can say gamers don't want that. Okay, well, by the tune of $92 billion, they sure as hell do. So what are your thoughts on that counter argument?
I wasn't saying that that the supply should be like huge, right? I'm saying that by limiting the supply to 5, for instance, only the first 5 players could get it, and then you would have much fewer people actually trying to get it, because they would think, what happens if I'm the 6th or 7th, right? So even in free-to-play mobile games, yes, it's hard, and sometimes you would have to spend a lot of money. But still, if there's 5 players reaching that point, then there's 5 players. If there's 5,000 players reaching that point, it's 5,000. And this would inherently dilute the value or the price of this item, right? You had the example of Magic the Gathering. Back when Alpha and Beta were the first editions, right? I don't think that people were buying packs just to have a Black Lotus that they could be able to sell for $20,000 15 years later. I don't think people were buying them like that, right?
I was there, and they were not doing that. They were just buying Magic cards because they were cool.
And because they wanted to play them or collect them or whatever, right? But because they were cool, they wanted the cards. They didn't want to make an investment, right? And this is the way we should be treating NFTs. And I think that's the biggest challenge, to basically show gamers what they gain from playing Web3 games over traditional games. And just provide that benefit. And I think that interoperability is one of these benefits. Just to get to that solution kind of part, interoperability is great, right? But the type of interoperability that we've been talking about in Web3 is the type of interoperability where you take a weapon from Fortnite and use it in CSGO, right? And that's not a blockchain problem or not a Web3 problem. 10% of that is a Web3 problem. All the rest is, okay, what does it look like? Who can play it? How much damage does it do? How does it sound? Right? All these problems, right? And what do you gain from, as Valve, what do you gain from allowing a weapon by another publisher that was issued by another publisher in your game? These are the problems that are kind of the interoperability problems, right?
So it's not the technology, it's the people and the companies working with each other to make things the people being interoperable is the issue with interoperability, not the technology being interoperable. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
No, I'm talking about different kinds of interoperability, right? So, for instance, in Dungeon Master, we did the simplest type of NFT-based interoperability. You can basically stake any types of NFTs to get a benefit in the game, right? So we have about 33,000 different NFT templates that are stakeable. We have over 1.6 million NFTs staked, right? And this is what I call economic interoperability, right? You use an NFT from one game or from one collection in another game, and it does something there, right? It doesn't have to be kind of visually there, or it doesn't have to be in the game, but it gives you an economic, like in the game economy, it gives you benefit. So this is a type of interoperability, and this is the simplest form, right? So or selling something to buy something else. That's really cool. I sell my Magic cards to buy Pokemon cards. I never did that, but theoretically I could, right? So if I want to stop playing MTG and want to start playing Pokemon, this is what I would do, right? So that's totally normal. And there's another thing, and I think that's also so Illuvium, I guess, is gonna do a good job on the interoperability part in 2023 and beyond, right? But there's another part, and this is what I call social interoperability, and this is basically gamers want to show off, right? So if I have a character in World of Warcraft, I want to show off how mighty it is, right? And now with NFTs, I can do that cross game, and this is something really awesome. And this is something that we want to focus on a lot as well. But I think that this will come to fruition quite a bunch in 2023. That you will be able to showcase what you got from across all kinds of games, because these are achievements, and this is what made you awesome. A lot of sweat, blood, sweat, and tears, basically, to get there. And I think that's going to be a big thing. That's going to show the power of Web3 to a lot of traditional gamers. And if the problems are not that big, right? If the barrier is not too high, then they will go and play them.
That was an amazing rant. I'm gonna throw a little applause sound effect in there. That was a fantastic rant. Very good.
Thanks.
Anyway, enough of that sound effect. All right, let me go ahead and give Scoriox the floor. Share your final thoughts, wrapping all of this up. 2022, where we came from. 2023, where we're going. Give us those final thoughts, and then tell these beautiful people watching right now where they can find you.
So there's a lot of thoughts to unpack here. I think 2022 was the year for building. I definitely think that's been happening under our noses that we can't necessarily see, and obviously projects like Illuvium that are doing it in the light as well. And I don't think it's going to be super recognizable in the future. I think 2023, many games are going to start to come out, especially towards the end of 2023, and that will be remembered for many, many years to come. But we've just seen the start of blockchain gaming, and we've just seen the start of crypto, and as Adrian said a minute ago, that there's so many ways to use NFTs in gaming that no one's going to just pigeonhole themselves into one aspect, right? Each game will have to choose kind of the pathway they want to take, but NFTs are so powerful in so many different ways. Even as an investment vehicle, I don't think you should really be purchasing NFTs as a plan, as an investment vehicle, but they definitely have that possibility and opportunity depending on the project that's creating them as well, right? So I definitely think there's a lot in 2023 that is going to go down. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen in the crypto market, but 2023 may be another year of building, but that's going to be the year where lots of projects are potentially weeded out, and you're going to have the really strong contenders that stick around for the long term and really prove their worth by being able to create something amazing and not rush it out the door as well. I feel like the bull run, I don't not necessarily forced people to rush their projects out the door, but it definitely enticed people to get their projects out faster because of the money bags in their eyes, right? So I definitely think 2023 is a time for building, and there are so many great projects out there, including Illuvium, obviously. And you can find me on YouTube, Scoriox. You can just youtube.com/c/Scoriox. And I'm on Twitter.
Look at this guy. I mean, he kind of looks like the actual Scoriox. Like the look in his eyes, even the facial structure here. It's uncanny. It's uncanny.
I just need the little wing things on my head. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at King Scoriox, and everywhere else. I'm pretty much everywhere now. I don't have an Instagram. I don't know if I should make one. But it's been a really awesome chat. And yeah, Adrian's had some really epic insights as well. So it's been great talking to you guys.
I concur, Doctor. Thank you for being on the show. Can't wait to have you back in again next quarter if you'll come. Adrian, wrap us up here, man. Your final thoughts. 2022, where we came from. 2023, where we're going. Give us those final thoughts, and then tell everyone where they can see the things that you're building.
Yeah, I think I'm actually quite excited for 2023 because I think that the bull run had one really good thing to also rushing projects out, and there's a lot of really well-funded companies that can actually compete with mainstream traditional gaming companies in terms of how much money they have, what their budgets are to build these games. That probably also means that it will take this a similar amount of time. And we've been getting disappointed quite a lot from traditional gaming companies. So hope that Web3 companies, at least to a certain extent, can do a better job. But then again, also some of these companies have been around for a really, really long time and building. So there's quite a bunch of games, as Scoriox also mentioned, towards the second half of 2023 coming out in public beta or even like fully, right? Games built in Unreal Engine, UE4, UE5, that will look awesome, that will be more like Web 2.5 games, as some people call it, right? Where they basically try to hide the blockchain and Web3 aspects and the NFT aspects behind a lot of gameplay, maybe free to play, maybe
Digital collectibles?
I don't believe in that term. I think that there's no problem with the term NFT. We've had VHS, we've had DVD, right? So it's these terms, these half technical terms, are not a problem per se, right? But I think that they're trying to appeal to the same type of users and try to hide the complexities of, well, holding your private keys and understanding what that means and these kinds of things. But I also think that what we need is a lot of interoperability. We need open ecosystems. We need shared liquidity in marketplaces. We need NFT lending. We need all these things. So there's still a lot of infrastructural work to be done. In general, I'm really excited for 2023. Really curious which games will actually come out, which games will be cool to play. Like they had really great gameplay demos or whatever, but now it's about showing off what you really got, right? So that's what I'm excited about, and I'm curious to see. Where you can find me, so you can check out wombat.app. That's our website. You'll find links to pretty much all products there. Womplay.io is also a good place. Me, typically on Twitter. We do live streams quite a bunch as well. So I'm on Twitch every Monday afternoon our time. So quite a lot of possibilities if you want to dig into that. We're not integrated with Immutable X yet, so we can't support Illuvium just yet, but we're working on that. So let's see when this will be the case. So thanks for having me, and also great to meet you, Scoriox.
That's great. Thank you for being on the show, everybody. I'm going to boot you guys out real quick and wrap up the show. Appreciate both of your time and your thoughts. My thoughts on last year and this year: I think last year will not be remembered. I kind of agree with that. I think last year was just another market cycle. I don't think it was the .com bust, if you will, for our space. I think maybe that'll come up. And here's something that's been rattling around in my brain while I was on break during the holidays. Everybody's talking about how 2023 is a year of a massive recession or depression, or how everything's going to get much, much worse. Yet, why hasn't everybody sold everything then? If everything's going down, then how come everybody hasn't sold everything? If the media is 100% certain that everything's going to crash this year, it's guaranteed. They have all the justification, all the experts, all the pundits, all the YouTubers, all the podcasters. Then why hasn't everybody sold everything? I can't help but think about that during the holiday. And it reminds me of the previous year when everybody said that Bitcoin and everything was going to the moon. 250,000, let's go. People had 100,000 hats. Everybody said it was going to the moon. So when everybody says something's going to happen, normally something else happens. And so that to me makes 2023 a wild card year. And I'm really glad that Illuvium we're putting up our sails, if you will, by launching more products, launching more games, moving into open beta, so that if the winds do blow in 2023, we'll be there to catch it. Thank you so much for watching Illuvitalks. I guarantee you learned at least 2 new things on this episode, and I leave you with some of that beautiful original soundtrack music by our team. Enjoy. See you in the next episode.